Melania Trump, the American First Lady, had sent out a message yesterday about how she hates to see children separated from their families, but called on both sides of the divide, Democrats and Republicans, to actually do something to tackle the issue of children being separated from their parents at the Mexico border. This is because of basically a change in the law, or not change in the law, change in the policy. It's quite wrong for Donald Trump to claim there's been a change in the law, but change in the policy in terms of dealing with the parents who are accused of illegally crossing borders into the United States, where they are actually now being prosecuted, not just sort of detained and then sent home with their families, but actually the parents are prosecuted, taken to federal prisons. And of course, children can't be taken to those. And children are basically kept, for all intents and purposes, in warehouses. In one case in Texas, they're being separated from their parents in a cage, to all intents and purposes. Lights on all the time, sleeping on the floor, bottles of water, packets of crisps distributed. And this is from footage actually distributed officially by those holding them. There has been a national outcry in the States, not just from Democrats but Republicans alike, including two former First Ladies. Let's talk to Alan Friedman about this. He's an American political commentator, author of This Is Not America, and joins us now. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Julia.
I don't know how any right-thinking person, any parent, can fail to be shocked by the footage of children, some as young as toddlers, being separated from their parents and kept in these cages. Now, many people might say, look, their parents have committed a crime. They've illegally entered the country. The authorities have the right to take them. But it's a question of what happens to the children once they're separated from their parents that is really the issue, isn't it?
Look, this is an American tragedy. This is a new low for Trump. Separating children, and there are about 2,000 children right now who are been put in not even prisons, not even detention centers, but literally you can see them on television in cages, sleeping on the floor, being treated like dirt, and being separated from their mothers. And that's the reason why even Melania Trump was moved to say something about it.
Well, what was she? Or was she actually trying to help her husband? But this is the thing. Look, Donald Trump has got every right. I mean, the Americans have got every right to prosecute people for committing the crime of illegally entering their country, don't they?
Let me explain. This is all based on a series of lies from Trump. He's lied and said that they have the right because it's a Democrat law.
That's rubbish.
Let's fact check Trump. There is no Democrat law or law that the Democrats ever favored to separate children. There's a law on the books that says that it's up to the Justice Department and the immigration authorities to crack down and take a hard line or set a more mild policy as they desire. This was announced by Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, 1 month ago. We're going to crack down. We're going to separate children from their mothers. He said it. It's happening. It's something Trump can stop with one phone call. He's doing it in order to blackmail Congress to give him $25 billion to build his damned wall with Mexico. He's using children as hostages. And that's the reason why Laura Bush, the former First Lady and wife of George W. Bush, wrote a heartfelt op-ed in the Washington Post saying this is immoral, cruel, and it breaks my heart. And this zero-tolerance policy need not be like this. It's a discretionary power of the president. Meanwhile, Melania Trump's expression of concern, I'm moved by this, could be ambiguous, could be taken as her trying to help Trump to show that the family has heart, even though Trump is defending caging children in Texas, or it could be a genuine protest against her husband, but you never know with these trophy wives and former supermodels who get married to billionaires and get divorced and married and all that. You don't know that, and it's not for me to.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
What
matters is that Laura Bush, Mrs. Jimmy Carter, and of course Hillary Clinton, as well as Melania, expressed outrage, and we are looking at a treatment that reminds me of the 1930s.
I don't see how anyone could not see that link. Let's look at it from the perspective of some of the Trump's base, his supporters who don't seem to think he can do any wrong. From their perspective, they may be saying, look, he said he would crack down on this. He said he would deal with it. These people are entering our country illegally. We don't know. He always called them, he said Mexicans murderers and rapists. But they accepted that viewpoint. These people, we don't know who they are. They're now being prosecuted for the crime. They've entered the country illegally. We can't put the kids in prison. What are we supposed to do with the kids? It's the parents who've caused this issue by committing the crime of illegal immigration. It's not the government's fault. If Donald Trump pushes that line, his base are going to say, they're going to shrug and say, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Julia, and let's be very clear. Donald Trump is doing this horrible thing, this Nazi-like behavior of separating children from their mothers. You know, the president of the American Pediatric Society described it as child abuse, and the United Nations Human Rights Commission called on the United States to stop this behavior. But Donald Trump is doing this also to build electoral power and try to win the midterm elections in November by appealing to the right-wing and extreme right-wing base that likes the idea of we keep out the Muslims, we keep out the Mexicans, we'll protect American jobs, we're making trade wars with China. It's all part of a piece. It's all part of Trump's appeal to the ethno-populist, white supremacist nationalists who vote for him. So there's that element, which, by the way, is paralleled in Europe, where in Germany, Trump attacked Merkel, and they're having a migration crisis, and Italy, where the new government is also attacking immigrants. This is part of a chill wind sweeping across the Western world.
Well, you say a chill wind, but again, I know you spent a lot of time in Italy, Alan. I think that's where we've called you today. You know, the Italian government's move to not accept a migrant ship.
Refused to take a boat,
well, yeah, but
ship.
very popular with the Italian people.
2/3 of the Italians support Salvini. By the way, Salvini sort of makes the National Front Party of Britain look left-wing. He's a real far-right extremist and a racist. He called last night for rounding up gypsies and expelling them and said, we'll have to keep the Italian gypsies, unfortunately. I mean, he's making racist statements as minister. But you're right. 2/3 of the Italians in the polls this week support that hard line on immigration. Just like in America, 40% or 50% of the Americans support Trump's hard line on separating children.
But this, Alan, look, I'm a mum, especially. I am appalled by this. But is there an element where this might operate in a similar way to how the Australians have dealt with their migrant illegal immigration issue, which is that if you didn't let the boats dock, if the pictures come out that actually you never make it into the country, you don't just get turned back at the border, and you live to try another day in a week's time, that actually the message does get across that this isn't a worth trying. I'm not saying this is acceptable. I'm not saying what he's doing. I think it's immoral and inhumane. But there'll be many people who say, you know, you don't have to be a racist. You don't have to be a xenophobe. You don't have to be a Trump supporter to say that countries have the right to protect their borders.
Well, those people in the it's not the majority of Americans, but America is divided pretty evenly on this question, 50-50. Those Americans who support the idea of separating children from their mothers and putting them in cages and making it difficult for their families to reconnect with them because they're being held somewhere else or they're deported. Those people also support waterboarding, torture, anti-black, anti-gay, and anti-abortion statements by Trump. So yes, he appeals to his base well by doing that. It's not the way we Americans think of ourselves. We're better than this. We Americans are better than Trump.